The night wind drifts over ancient wheat fields, carrying the soft breath of a world long gone. Along the still Indus, the water darkens like deep blue cloth. Here begins Harappa, quiet, measured, unhurried, where clay, brick, and gentle footsteps shaped a civilization that asks you to slow down and simply listen. The evening settles softly across the vast plains of the Indus Valley, folding the land in a calm that feels older than memory itself. Far from modern noise, the world stretches out in muted gold and shadow, touched only by the steady whisper of wind moving through ancient wheat. Each stalk bends with a familiar grace, as though it remembers the hands that once planted it. And just beyond these fields lies the slow, unwavering breath of the Indus River, its dark surface smooth as hand-woven cloth, reflecting the first faint stars. This is the threshold of Harappa, a civilization that grew not from conquest or ambition, but from patience, rhythm, and quiet craft. It is a world where life moved in straight brick lines, where streets met at right angles, and where every home carried the comfort of a well-designed simplicity. The people here lived without the thunder of chariots or the echo of palace intrigue. They shaped their days with clay, water, fire, and time, four ancient companions that guided their way of life for centuries. As you step deeper into this landscape, the air changes. It becomes softer, cooler, touched by the scent of baked earth and river silt. You may hear the faint clink of pottery cooling in the evening air, or the gentle splash of water being lifted from a well. Somewhere nearby, a potter's wheel slows to a quiet stop. A row of evenly molded bricks rests cooling in the twilight, each one a small promise of tomorrow's work. Harappa does not rush. It does not rise with grand monuments meant to dominate the horizon. Instead, it grows in thoughtful layers of craftsmanship, careful drainage channels, streets laid with logic, wells shared with neighbors, tiny seals carved with animals that watched over markets and workshops. The city breathes in steady harmony, as if its builders understood something essential about living well and living gently. Imagine walking through its narrow lanes. Lamps glow behind doorways. Children's laughter softens into the night. A woman shapes flour into rounds on a smooth stone slab, while the last warmth of the day fades from her courtyard. A man rinses his hands in a cool basin before settling into the calm blue dusk. Above them, smoke rises in thin, unhurried lines from household hearths, each one carrying the scent of grains, lentils, and stories passed quietly between generations. Nothing here demands your urgency. Instead, the world invites you into its slow pulse, guiding you to notice the small and the steady, the rhythm of footsteps on packed earth, the way moonlight finds the edge of a rooftop, the quiet dignity of a civilization that chose balance over conquest. Tonight, let Harappa open gently before you, a place shaped not by battles, but by calm hands, soft winds, and the soothing breath of a river that has watched humanity for 4,000 years. The quiet morning in the Indus Valley. The morning begins softly in the wide Indus Valley, where the first light of day moves gently across the land without hurry. A thin layer of mist rests over the fields and low houses, drifting like a pale veil that has not yet decided to rise. The air is cool and carries the clean scent of wet earth, the kind of scent that comes only after night has wrapped the soil in quiet moisture. It is the hour when everything feels unbroken, unhurried, and lightly held. In this early stillness, the sound of a wooden cart makes its way across the morning path. The wheels turn slowly, pulled by a calm, broad-shouldered bull, whose steps have known this route for years. Each step presses into the damp soil with a soft, steady rhythm, leaving behind a trail of shallow prints filled with beads of dew. The wooden yoke creaks faintly, blending into the natural hum of a world waking up without abruptness. Nothing rushes, nothing demands more than what the moment offers. Beyond the path, long rows of baked bricks stretch in quiet lines. These bricks, carefully shaped, evenly sized, are one of the Indus Valley's signatures, a quiet mark of skill and intention. They rest in neat stacks near a kiln that is still warm from the night's final firing. Even now, the faint scent of clay lingers in the air, mixed with the earthy traces of smoke. The people of this valley have perfected the art of uniformity, bricks that match each other so precisely that walls rise evenly, houses sit level, and entire cities take form with a natural sense of balance. This harmony is not forced. It grows from slow hands, practiced motions, and a patience shaped over generations. As the mist thins, the city reveals itself in clean, straight lines. The streets run in organized grids, so unusual for this ancient world, yet so natural here. Each road meets another at careful angles, as though the entire place breathes in measured geometry. Along these streets, narrow channels run beside the walls, guiding water and keeping the city clean. The stones lining these channels still glisten with morning moisture, carrying the memory of water that once passed through during the night. Homes rise on either side, calm rectangular structures made from the same straight-edged bricks, their surfaces warmed in soft tones by the rising sun. Doorways open into small courtyards where families begin their morning routines. A woman steps quietly into her yard, brushing aside a drifting strand of mist as she fetches water from a basin. A man tends to a slow-burning fire, coaxing a few warm embers into a steady flame for breakfast. A child traces shapes in the thin layer of dew settled on the steps. Everything unfolds in gentle, familiar patterns. Inside one of the homes, a simple bundle of dried grass sits near the doorway. It is a small household tool, an early form of a brush, made by binding stiff grasses together with a thin cord. It rests against the wall, still carrying faint traces of the night air. Someone will soon pick it up to sweep the courtyard or clean the stone floor, continuing a ritual that has changed little over thousands of years. The soft whisper of its bristles will blend seamlessly into the morning. On a low table, a small coil of carved stone catches the light. It is a bracelet of polished steatite, its surface smooth from many hands touching it over time. Next to it lies a string of carnelian beads, warm, reddish-orange stones shaped with remarkable precision. Each bead has a tiny hole drilled through its center, a testament to the patience of artisans who worked with quiet concentration. These beads glow softly in the first rays of the sun, their colors deepening with every shift of light. They are small treasures, part of everyday life, worn not for display but for comfort and beauty. Further along the street, workshops begin to wake. A potter checks on a row of vessels left to dry overnight, their surfaces cool and firm. The patterns etched into them, circles, straight lines, gentle curves, reflect a style that values clarity and calm. In another space, a bead maker warms his hands, before picking up his tools, preparing to shape more carnelian stones. His workshop is simple: a slab of stone, a few tools, a small bowl of water, and a gentle habit of breathing with the rhythm of his craft. The bullock cart moves deeper into the town, its wheels rolling over the flat streets. The driver hums a quiet tune, something steady, something he does each morning without thinking. His cart carries bundles of grain, jars of oil, a stack of carefully wrapped goods, and a few baskets woven from reeds near the riverbank. The scent of grain mingles with the cool morning air, creating a fragrance both grounding and soft. As he passes the central well, a group of women gathers, with clay pots balanced lightly on their hips. Their voices are low, blending in a soft murmur as they fill their vessels and exchange simple greetings. The sound of water pouring into pots echoes gently between the brick walls. A few droplets spill onto the street, darkening the warm clay surface and releasing a richer scent of earth. Footsteps quiet themselves out of habit, as though the place encourages everyone to move with the same calm tempo. Birds begin to stir. A flock of small, pale-winged birds rises from a rooftop, fluttering into the soft sky. Their wings beat lightly, disturbing a few strands of mist that still cling to the higher walls. The sun climbs a little higher, sending a slow warmth across the rooftops and courtyards. Shadows stretch gently across the straight-lined streets, not sharp but feathered at the edges, softened by the lingering humidity. The city continues its calm awakening. A craftsman carries a basket of bricks toward a new construction site, stacking them along a fresh foundation. A trader arranges small goods on a cloth near the marketplace, smoothing each item into place. A pair of children chase each other in slow, playful steps, careful not to slip on the damp ground. Even their laughter has a muted sweetness, blending into the morning rather than rising above it. Nothing interrupts the steady rhythm of the valley. The Indus River flows nearby, its surface smooth as polished stone. From a distance it reflects the sky in wide bands of pale blue and silver, moving with such steadiness that it seems almost still. A soft breeze moves across the water, carrying faint traces of clay, grass, and the deep, cool scent of the river itself. As the morning continues, the sun warms the city just enough for the mist to pull back, lifting slowly like a curtain rising from the land. The bricks glow in soft shades of ochre and rust. The streets become clearer, the lines sharper. Life settles into its daily rhythm, measured, balanced, never rushing. This is the Indus Valley at its most peaceful, a world shaped not by grand declarations but by small, steady acts, by bricks baked evenly, by streets laid straight, by the scent of wet earth and the simple sound of a bull's slow steps, by the tools, beads, bracelets, and quiet gestures that filled the days of people who lived without noise, without haste, and without urgency. In this gentle morning, the entire valley seems to breathe in a long, unbroken exhale, a reminder that life, even 4,000 years ago, could be lived in calm lines and quiet rhythms. And as the sun continues its slow rise, the world of Harappa opens fully, inviting you to linger just a little longer in its soft, ancient light. Harappa at dawn. Dawn arrives slowly over the ancient city of Harappa, settling across rooftops and courtyards with a softness that feels almost weightless. The light begins as a thin, pale ribbon along the horizon, then gently unwinds, touching the brick walls and narrow streets with a warm, muted glow. Nothing in the city wakes abruptly. Everything stretches into the morning as though following an old, familiar rhythm that has been passed down from one generation to the next. From within the quiet homes, doors begin to open. The sounds are soft wood, sliding against stone, a gentle clink of metal, a rustle of woven cloth. One by one, families step out into their small courtyards. The cool air carries the faint scent of clay, dew, and the last traces of night. Hair still tousled from rest, feet bare against the smooth ground, they pause for a moment as though greeting the day in silence. A woman sweeps the entryway using a bundle of dried grass, its gentle bristles whispering across the floor. A man washes his face with water from a stone basin, the droplets catching the first thin beams of light. Children step out quietly, blinking at the soft brightness. The city, built in clean, straight lines, holds the dawn in a calm embrace. The grid-like streets begin to glow in soft amber hues as the sun climbs, the baked bricks warming under its touch. Shadows stretch carefully, forming long, peaceful shapes along the walkways. In the distance, a few bullock carts begin to move, the wheels rolling at an unhurried pace. The bulls themselves seem to understand the stillness of the early hour, walking with a slow, patient confidence. In one corner of the city, a potter begins his morning work. He sits on a low stool beside his wheel, the surface still damp from the night air. With practiced ease, he places a mound of soft clay at the center and begins to spin the wheel with his bare foot. The rhythm is steady and unforced, a gentle pulse that blends with the quiet sounds of the city waking around him. The clay turns beneath his hands, rising slowly into shape smooth, even, balanced. The faint scent of damp earth lifts into the air, mingling with the subtle smokiness from the kiln that cooled during the night. Nearby rows of pots wait in silence, drying in the early light. A potter's workshop in Harappa is simple: a wheel, a kiln, a few tools, and the calm dedication of hands that have shaped clay for decades. The sun touches the potter's forearms as he works, highlighting the steady movements practiced over a lifetime. Each vessel he shapes will be dried, fired, cooled, and carried into a home or a market stall, becoming part of someone's quiet routine. But for now, in this early hour, they remain just lines of smooth, silent forms, catching the morning warmth. Not far away, the soft, rhythmic tapping of a loom begins to echo through the neighborhood. In a shaded courtyard, a weaver sits before a wooden frame, guiding threads of wool and cotton into steady patterns. The loom's rhythm is light and even, like the gentle ticking of a distant heartbeat. Her fingers move with care, adjusting fibers combed smooth earlier at dawn. Strands of cotton rest in a small basket by her side, while bundles of wool, soft, washed, and lightly scented from drying in the sun, wait to be woven. Harappa's textiles carry the patience of many steps: the washing, the combing, the spinning, the weaving. Every sound of the loom blends harmoniously with the rest of the morning: the bullock cart, the sweeping of courtyards, the turning of the potter's wheel. Together they form a gentle orchestra of early labor, a soundscape that belongs uniquely to this ancient city, alive yet unhurried. Across the straight-lined streets, the small market begins to take shape. It is not a busy or loud marketplace. Instead, it unfolds in soft gestures and slow movements. A few woven mats are laid upon the ground, their colors muted in the morning light. Traders begin arranging their goods with calm attention. A basket of dates is placed neatly beside a bundle of barley grains. Small clay jars filled with herbal honey are set with care so they catch the sunlight just enough to show their warm, golden color. The dates harvested from groves where the palms sway gently in the valley breeze give off a sweet, earthy scent. The barley, measured in small handfuls, rustles softly as it's poured from one container into another. And the honey, infused with the quiet flavors of local herbs, glows like a slow sunrise captured in a jar. As the merchants prepare their stalls, they move with a gentleness that suits the hour, their motions smooth and unhurried. A few early customers wander in, carrying small baskets woven from reeds harvested near the river. They pause by the stalls, quietly weighing the day's choices. A woman selects a handful of dates, pressing them lightly between her fingers to test their softness. A man leans over a jar of honey, noting the thickness of the golden liquid inside. No voices rise above the soft murmur of the market. Everything unfolds in a peaceful hush, as though the city has agreed to begin its day with care. Further into the city, the central well becomes a gathering point. The soft echo of water being drawn up from deep within the earth floats into the air. A wooden bucket creaks as it rises, splashing gently as it is poured into clay pots. The cool water darkens the surfaces of the vessels, releasing the scent of fresh clay warmed by the sun. People stand around the well in calm intervals, waiting their turn without rush. A few brief greetings are exchanged, spoken in tones as gentle as the water itself. A pair of children sit beside the well, playing with smooth river stones. Their movements are small and quiet, tracing circles in the dust or stacking the stones into tiny towers. Their laughter, soft and breathy, blends into the quiet fabric of the morning rather than breaking it. Even their play feels woven into the rhythm of the city. As the sun rises higher, a thin layer of warmth begins to fill the streets. The bricks retain the heat slowly, releasing it in gentle waves. People move along the pathways carrying baskets, pots, tools, and woven cloth. Everything they carry becomes part of a shared routine. A pot to be shaped, a bundle of wool to comb, a jar of honey for the household, a handful of barley to grind for the day's meals. Life in Harappa moves not with urgency, but with a steady, grounded sense of continuity. The potter finishes shaping a vessel and sets it in the sunlight to dry. He wipes his hands on a piece of cloth and rests for a moment, watching the neighborhood awaken around him. The weaver adjusts the tension of a thread and starts a new line in her pattern. The merchants arrange the last few items on their mats, aligning the baskets in neat rows. A farmer passes by with a sack of grain, the weight held easily on his shoulder. A small group of craftsmen walk toward the edge of the city to gather clay, their footsteps quiet but purposeful. Throughout all of this, the Indus River flows just beyond the city walls. Its surface glimmers with soft ripples, carrying the reflection of the sky as it brightens from pale blue to gentle gold. The river's calm presence shapes the life of the city as surely as the grid-like streets and the uniform bricks. It brings water, fish, reeds, fertile soil, and a sense of constant movement, slow, steady, dependable. By mid-morning, the market is fully arranged. The dates sit in neat piles, the barley in small clay bowls, the honey jars catching the sun. The potter's row of vessels has grown longer. The loom's rhythm continues in the background, weaving thread into cloth that will be worn in quiet homes or traded for simple goods. Harappa at dawn is not defined by excitement or spectacle. Instead, it becomes memorable through its gentle balance, doors opening softly, feet stepping onto cool stone, tools beginning their rhythms, goods finding their places in the market. Every movement is part of a calm choreography that has shaped life in this valley for thousands of years. And as the sun rises fully over the city, casting long, warm beams across the rooftops, Harappa settles into its day with the same quiet assurance it has known for centuries. A world built not on noise but on steady hands, soft mornings, and the peaceful harmony of everyday life. The quiet homes of the Indus. Dawn settles softly over the city of Harappa, brushing the tops of its brick houses with a warm, pale glow. The streets are still cool from the night, their straight, orderly lines touched by a gentle mist. Nothing wakes in a rush. Instead, the entire city seems to stretch quietly into the morning, as though it has all the time in the world. The air carries the faint scent of clay, dew, and wood that has been warmed and cooled many times through centuries of peaceful routine. The houses of Harappa stand in calm rows, built from the signature baked bricks that have become the soul of the Indus Valley. Their surfaces are smooth, their edges straight, their colors softly mottled from years of sun and monsoon. Most of the homes have flat roofs, giving the city a layered look like gentle steps rising toward the sky. These rooftops, warmed by the morning light, often serve as spaces for drying grain, combing cotton, or simply sitting in the breeze once the day grows warm. Inside the homes, courtyards form the heart of family life. Each one is a quiet, open square surrounded by walls that soften the sound of daily activities. Some courtyards hold flowering plants. Others have small storage jars or bundles of firewood stacked neatly in a corner. And in many of them, a well sits at the center, an anchor to fresh water, shaped from carefully placed bricks, its rim cool and smooth to the touch. The sound of water being drawn from these wells is faint and steady, a soft echo that blends seamlessly with the morning. In one house, a woman begins her day by lowering a small clay pot into the well. The rope slides quietly through her hands, and the pot sinks into the cool water below. When she pulls it up, the droplets cling to the sides, glistening briefly before slipping back down the well's edge. The water is poured into a stone basin for washing the courtyard floor, and the scent of wet clay rises gently into the air. Across the street, the architectural brilliance of the Indus Valley reveals itself in a series of tidy steps leading down to a bathing room. Here the bricks are arranged in careful patterns, forming short staircases that descend into a small, smooth space used for washing. The builders of Harappa were masters of clean design. They understood the comfort of well-aligned walls, the practicality of flat roofs, and the importance of water that could be guided exactly where it needed to go. As the sun climbs a little higher, its light reaches the drainage channels that snake beneath the city. These channels are one of the quiet miracles of the Indus world. Crafted with precision, they guide water away from homes and through underground passages so subtly that the sound of it moving is almost impossible to detect. Only a faint whisper, like silk brushing against stone, gives away the presence of flowing water. The channels keep the streets dry and the homes clean, carrying the morning wash toward the larger drains at the edge of the city. A man crouches beside one such drain, lifting a small brick to check that the water is flowing smoothly. Satisfied, he places the brick back in position with a gentle tap, ensuring that everything remains as orderly as it has always been. In Harappa, even the infrastructure seems to breathe calmly, shaped by generations who valued balance, tidiness, and thoughtful construction. Near the center of the neighborhood, a group of builders begins their work for the day. Their tools are simple wooden frames, stone hammers, and baskets filled with bricks, but their coordination is effortless, shaped by long practice. They move slowly and steadily, lifting each brick with care, fitting it into place, and tapping the edges gently to ensure the alignment is perfect. The rhythm is almost musical in its softness. Lift, set, tap, lift, set, tap, all done in a quiet harmony that blends into the morning air. Among these builders, one man stands out not for his skill, but for a small, light-hearted moment playing out in the background of the otherwise serene morning. As he prepares to place a new brick on the rising wall, he pats his side and realizes, after a brief pause, that he is missing one brick from his stack. He glances around, then jogs back toward the storage pile. The movement is quick, but still gentle, his sandals tapping softly against the brick pathway. He tries not to disturb the pot of milk warming nearby left by someone who stepped inside to fetch herbs. He passes it with such careful steps that he raises no more than a tiny ripple on its surface. For a moment, his co-workers smile quietly, the scene becoming a small, warm memory to tuck into the flow of the morning. Returning with the missing brick, the man places it neatly onto the wall, taps it into place, and resumes his calm rhythm. Even this small moment of mild clumsiness settles back into the city's peaceful tempo without disrupting anything. In Harappa, even humor is soft, gentle, and woven seamlessly into the day. Along the rooftops, shadows shift as a few residents begin laying out items for the sun to warm. Baskets of lentils, folded cloth, small polished stones, and wool bundles are arranged in careful rows. The flat roofs, with their sturdy surfaces and open skies, make perfect drying spaces. A breeze passes over them, carrying the faint smell of river reeds and distant fields. The sound of woven cloth being shaken dies softly into the air, leaving behind only the quiet hum of routine. Inside another home, the bathing area is in use. A young woman steps down the brick staircase, its lines perfectly straight, its edges smooth from years of bare feet, guiding the same path. She pours water from a small jug over her arms, letting it fall calmly into the basin beneath her. The water trickles toward the corner channel and slips quietly into the drainage system, its sound faint enough that someone standing just outside the room might not even hear it. The brilliance of Indus sanitation lives in the silence of these systems. Everything is designed to work without fuss. Water flows downward with ease, channels slant at consistent angles, brick covers lift and fit back into place, and the earth beneath the city remains dry and steady. The people of Harappa have learned how to build comfort into the simplest structures, how to shape clay and stone in ways that keep life smooth, predictable, and peaceful. As mid-morning approaches, more families step into the sunlight, moving between house and courtyard with baskets, pots, and tools. The city warms in soft increments, the light turning from pale gold to a gentle amber. A few children run along the raised platforms beside the streets, their steps light and unhurried. A pot of milk on a rooftop begins to steam slightly, watched by someone who checks it now and then with an unhurried glance. Along the main road, the builders continue layering bricks. A woman brings them a bowl of cool water, placing it beside their tools so they can refresh themselves without leaving their work. She smiles kindly as she notices the builder who earlier forgot his brick. He gives a shy shrug and she responds with a soft laugh before returning to her home. The moment is small, simple, and entirely in harmony with the gentle pace of the city. Farther down the street, a family prepares their courtyard for the midday heat. The well's bucket is raised and lowered one last time before the sun reaches its highest point. The woman washes the stone floor with long, calm motions, letting the water spread across the surface before guiding it toward the small drain. The scent of wet stone fills the air, cool, grounded, soothing. By late morning, Harappa has fully awakened, yet it remains as calm as it was at dawn. Houses line the streets with steady confidence. Courtyards hold their quiet wells and smooth floors. Rooftops shimmer lightly in the sun. Drainage channels carry water without a sound. And the city continues its day in soft, even breaths, shaped by bricks, by hands, and by the gentle habits of a people who built their world one peaceful morning at a time. The quiet heart of the Indus River. Morning settles gently over the Indus River, moving across the valley with the softness of a silk cloth being unrolled. The light spreads slowly, touching the wide, deep blue surface of the water. At this hour, the river looks almost still, so calm and so smooth that it reflects the sky like a perfectly polished mirror. Only the faintest ripple at its edge reveals that it is alive and drifting onward, carrying the quiet strength of thousands of years beneath its surface. The air near the river is cool and full of the scent of wet clay and faint hints of grass warmed by yesterday's sun. Mist curls along the banks, weaving between low shrubs and tall reeds. It clings gently to the trunks of acacia trees and drifts lightly over the footprints left by people and animals that passed during the early dawn. Everything feels suspended, neither rushing forward nor holding back, just unfolding at its own gentle pace. From upriver, a wooden raft glides into view. It is made from logs bound together with thick rope, the fibers twisted tightly by patient hands. As the raft moves, the breeze carries the subtle smell of resin, the warm, slightly sweet scent that comes from tree sap baked into the wood. The ropes themselves release a faint earthy aroma softened by time and river mist. It is a scent that belongs entirely to this world, wood, water, and sun-laced days. The raft drifts slowly, guided by the calm current. A small basket of goods sits near its center, tied securely so it does not shift. The soft creak of wood against water blends seamlessly with the quiet around it. A man standing at the front uses a long pole to guide the raft's movement. He is in no hurry. He simply adjusts when needed, leaning his weight into the pole with a relaxed ease born from many such mornings. Farther along the riverbank, a group of fishermen prepares their nets. Their motions are slow and practiced. One man kneels on a flat stone, checking the knots along the net's edges. Another stands waist deep in the water, holding the line gently as it rests upon the surface. The nets shimmer faintly in the early light, thin threads glinting like spider silk. When the nets are ready, the fishermen begin their work. Their movements are calm with no sudden force. They cast the nets outward in long, smooth arcs that settle on the water like a blanket being spread across a bed. As they work, the men hum quietly, soft melodies that rise and fall with their breathing. The tunes are simple, perhaps made up on the spot or passed down by those who once stood in the same place. Their voices blend with the sound of water lapping against the shore, creating a rhythm that feels as natural as the river itself. One fisherman, older than the others, adds a gentle chuckle to his humming as the cool water splashes against his knees. He moves with unhurried grace, occasionally offering a quiet comment that makes the younger men smile. Their laughter is faint and warm, carried away by the wind before it can grow loud. Even joy here seems to understand the peaceful nature of the valley, keeping itself soft and light. On the opposite bank, a small herd of elephants begins its slow morning walk. Their large feet press gently into the moist riverbank, leaving broad, rounded prints that fill gradually with clear water. The elephants move in a gentle line, adults leading, younger ones trailing close behind. Their ears flick lazily, brushing away tiny insects drawn to the morning light. As they walk, the air fills with the earthy scent of dry grass clinging to their skin, carried from the fields where they fed at dawn. Every few steps, one of the elephants reaches its trunk toward a clump of reeds, pulling them up with a soft crunch. Another nudges a younger elephant quietly, guiding it away from a patch of muddy ground. Even in their great size, they move with surprising softness. Their breaths drift visibly in the air, warm against the coolness of the river breeze. A young elephant pauses to investigate a floating leaf, poking it with the tip of its trunk. The leaf bobs gently away, and the elephant follows it with slow steps before giving up and rejoining the herd. Its brief detour makes one of the fishermen smile, and he lifts his hand in a small wave. The elephant, in its own curious way, seems to acknowledge him by slowing its steps and turning its head slightly. Then it continues down the bank, its tail swaying in a slow, rhythmic pattern. As the morning deepens, the river becomes a soft tapestry of movement. The raft glides farther downstream, disappearing behind a bend where the river narrows into a gentle curve. The fishermen lift their nets, now heavy with the small, shimmering life of the river. They work with care, sorting their catch thoughtfully, returning what is too small and keeping what will feed the families in nearby homes. A few fish escape, slipping back into the deep blue water with quiet splashes that fade almost instantly. While they work, the fishermen continue their soft humming. The sound is steady, peaceful, a companion to the river's long, slow heartbeat. One of them begins a light, playful verse about a fish that always manages to escape him. His companions listen with patient amusement, casting glances toward the water as though expecting the fish to appear out of loyalty to the song. It doesn't, of course, but the moment brings a gentle warmth to the morning. The elephants continue their journey, stepping over fallen branches and patches of stone. One of the older elephants stops beside the river, dipping its trunk into the water and lifting it slowly to sprinkle droplets across its back. The water glistens for a moment before sliding down its wrinkled skin. The younger elephants follow suit, creating a small shower of cool droplets. Their soft trumpeting blends with the river wind, the sound low and unsharp, like a distant flute. A breeze sweeps across the valley, carrying faint traces of dry grass, river reeds, and the warm scent of the elephant's skin. The fishermen breathe in the familiar fragrance and continue their work with calm satisfaction. The river accepts all of it, the sounds, the scents, the movements, and folds them into its steady flow. As the sun climbs higher, the deep blue of the water shifts into lighter tones, still calm, still smooth, with the same mirror-like clarity. The river reflects the sky so perfectly that the clouds appear to float, both above and below. Birds skim across the surface, their wings just brushing the water, leaving delicate trails behind them. On the riverbank, a fisherman sits on a flat rock to rest. He dips his hands in the cool water, letting it run between his fingers. The river carries the touch onward, smoothing it into its quiet current. He watches the elephants in the distance, their shapes moving slowly through the pale morning light. A soft smile lifts his face, nothing dramatic, just a calm acknowledgement of the simple, steady world he is part of. Near him, another fisherman untangles a rope, humming a tune that has only 3 notes. He repeats it over and over, letting the simplicity of it fill the space between breaths. A third fisherman gently prods him with the end of a stick, playfully but still soft enough not to interrupt the calmness of the morning. They share a brief moment of quiet laughter, then return to their nets, as though the river itself had reminded them to continue. The Indus continues its journey, endless and unhurried, carrying reflections, scents, and the memory of every calm morning it has ever seen. For the people of Harappa, this river is not just water, it is a rhythm, a guide, a companion. It shapes their days with its softness, its patience, and its quiet strength. And as the sun rises higher and the mist lifts completely, the river remains smooth, deep, and peaceful its surface, as calm as polished stone, its flow steady as breath, its presence a constant reminder that life at its gentlest can be as slow and comforting as the Indus moving quietly through the valley. Quiet mornings inside an Indus family home. The morning light settles softly into the homes of Harappa, moving through small courtyards and across flat rooftops with an easy, gentle warmth. The air is still cool from the night, carrying the scent of baked brick and slowly warming grain. Inside one modest home, a family begins the day at a quiet, unhurried pace, as though following a rhythm the valley has known for centuries. In the center of the courtyard, breakfast is being prepared, simple, warm, and familiar. A small clay pan sits above a slow flame, its surface gently heating rounds of barley bread. The dough puffs slightly, releasing a faint, nutty fragrance that drifts through the air. Nearby, a bowl of soft butter rests on a cool stone slab, its pale surface catching the early light like melted cream waiting to be spread. A pot of lentils, simmered until tender, sits beside the bread. The steam rises in delicate threads, blending with the scent of clay, warm grain, and morning. The mother of the household moves with quiet ease. She adjusts the flame beneath the pot, lifts the bread with smooth, practiced motions, and places each warm round onto a woven mat to cool. Her fingers move lightly, not rushed, almost in time with the slow heartbeat of the city around them. Every so often she pauses to wipe her hands on a piece of cloth or to glance toward the children who have just begun their morning play. Once the food is arranged, she settles onto a low stool beneath the shade of the courtyard wall. Beside her is a bundle of palm fibers, thin, flexible, and faintly scented from drying in the sun. She begins weaving them into a basket. The motion is simple: fold, pull, tighten, smooth. The fibers rustle softly as they shift and interlock. Each layer forms a neat spiral, rising slowly into the shape of a sturdy container. Her hands work with an unthinking muscle memory, the kind that comes from years of doing the same peaceful task. Now and then, one stubborn palm fiber flicks outward instead of bending properly. When this happens, she shakes her head gently and lets out a soft laugh under her breath. She smooths the fiber, talks to it in the same warm tone she uses with her children, and guides it back into the weave. Even the mistakes here feel light, part of the calm routine of a new day. On the opposite side of the courtyard, two children sit on the ground with small clay toys scattered around them. One child holds a miniature cart shaped from baked clay, wheels etched into the sides, painted ever so faintly with leftover pigment from another craft. The other child plays with a circle of smooth stone beads, forming loops and patterns on the ground. Their voices drift softly, blending with the morning breeze. The clay cart creaks slightly as it rolls over the uneven ground, making a sound so gentle it fits perfectly into the quiet heart of the home. The child pulling it hums a tune, the kind of playful melody that probably changes each time he sings it. His younger sibling watches with growing delight, adding small stones to the cargo of the cart, then removing them, then adding them again, completely absorbed in the slow, thoughtful play of early morning. Every now and then, a clay wheel wobbles slightly and threatens to fall. The child pauses, steadies it with one finger, and gives it a reassuring tap. The wheel straightens, and the cart continues on its grand journey from one side of the courtyard to the other. A small victory, celebrated with a content nod. The father sits near the doorway of the home, where the sunlight just begins to touch the floor. In front of him lies a smooth, rectangular slab of moist clay. Beside it sits a set of small tools, tiny sticks, thin pieces of bone, and a few polished stones. They look simple, but each one plays a part in shaping the symbols he is about to carve. He presses his thumb gently against the clay, smoothing the surface until it becomes even and ready. Then, with great care, he begins marking the mysterious signs of the Indus script. His strokes are calm, precise, and deliberate. Every line appears as a quiet whisper etched into the clay straight lines, gentle curves, small shapes that rest beside one another like the pieces of a tranquil puzzle. No one in the home interrupts him. It is a familiar sight. The father leaning forward, shoulders relaxed, carving marks that will later be dried, hardened, and perhaps used for trade, recording, or sealing goods. The purpose matters less than the calmness of the process. As he works, he hums softly, adding his voice to the chorus of gentle sounds filling the home. Occasionally, he pauses to check the thickness of the slab or the alignment of the marks. Sometimes he lifts his tool and squints slightly, making sure everything is in the right place. There is no rush, only steady attention. At one moment, a tiny piece of clay sticks to his thumb, stubborn and unwilling to let go. He shakes his hand gently, tries again, and eventually flicks it away with a quiet chuckle. His wife looks up from her basket and shares a small smile with him. These are the little moments of the home, soft, warm, and as natural as breathing. While the father continues carving, the children wander closer, still holding their toys. They peek cautiously at the clay slab, careful not to step too close. The father gives them a playful nod as if inviting them to watch. One of the children giggles softly, pointing at a symbol that looks a bit like a bird. Another symbol resembles flowing water. They do not understand the full meaning, but they enjoy seeing the shapes appear under their father's steady hands. The mother, still weaving, smiles quietly at the scene. Her basket is now halfway finished, its form rising smoothly from the center. She turns it slowly, studying the curve, adjusting a fiber here and there. A soft breeze passes through the courtyard, carrying with it the warm scent of barley bread. The children's eyes drift to the woven mat where the bread cools, but they make no move toward it. They know breakfast will come soon enough. When the bread is ready to serve, the mother places a few warm rounds into low clay bowls and adds small portions of butter and soft cooked lentils. The colors gold, cream, and earthy brown create a quiet harmony on the table. The family gathers in the courtyard, sitting on woven mats. No one rushes. They simply enjoy the slow warmth of the morning. The father wipes his hands before joining them, leaving the clay slab safely in the shade to dry. The children place their toys neatly beside the wall and sit cross-legged. The food is shared evenly. Mouthfuls are taken slowly, with the kind of appreciation that comes naturally when a meal is simple and made with familiar care. As they eat, the sounds of the city drift inward. A bullock cart rolls softly along the street. A neighbor calls to someone in a low voice. Farther away, a potter taps clay against stone, and from a distant rooftop, a gentle laugh rises and fades. None of the sounds disturb the family. Rather, they form a kind of comforting background, the heartbeat of Harappa surrounding them like a warm blanket. After breakfast, the children return to their play. The father stretches leisurely and checks his drying tablet. The mother resumes weaving, the basket now taking its final shape. The light grows stronger, brushing every surface in the courtyard with soft gold. Even as the day slowly awakens around them, the family remains in their quiet rhythm, steady, calm, deeply rooted in the simple joys of home. In this peaceful house, in this quiet corner of the Indus Valley, life continues as it has for generations. Warm bread, woven baskets, playful children, and the gentle lines of a script carved into clay. Nothing grand, nothing hurried, just a morning where harmony settles into the bricks, into the air, into the hands of those who live here. A morning that reminds the valley, once again, how beautifully calm life can be. The soft evening market of Mohenjo-Daro. The sun begins its slow descent over Mohenjo-Daro, spreading a mellow golden light across the straight streets and warm brick walls. The heat of the day eases into something gentle, something that lets the city breathe again. Shadows stretch calmly across the ground, and the soft breeze carries with it the faint sense of clay, warm dust, and the promise of the evening market coming to life. Along one of the main walkways, the afternoon hum turns into a slow, comforting rhythm. Traders begin arranging their goods beneath simple awnings. Mats are unrolled, baskets are opened, and small clay jars are placed carefully in neat rows. Everything is done without rush, as though everyone knows that the evening hours belong to calmness and quiet enjoyment. The first thing to drift through the air is the fragrance of spices. At one stall, a trader empties a cloth pouch onto a shallow tray, revealing rich yellow turmeric. The powder spreads in a soft cloud, glowing warmly in the evening light. Nearby, long pepper slender, dark, and aromatic rests in a basket woven from reeds. A gentle shake of the basket releases its sharp, earthy scent. From another corner of the market, bundles of fresh herbs are tied with thin cords. Their green aroma mingles with the spices, creating a layered, comforting fragrance that floats through the entire marketplace. It is a scent that belongs only to this hour of the day. Warm, earthy, mildly sweet, and touched by the cool breath of the coming night. A bead maker sits cross-legged on a mat near the center of the market. Before him lies a small collection of carnelian beads, red, orange, and polished until they shine like tiny suns. He lifts one bead between his fingers, turning it gently so it catches the fading light. The bead's surface glows softly as if warmed from within. A few children pass by, pausing just long enough to admire the way the beads gleam. Next to him, another artisan arranges strands of finished jewelry. Each carnelian bead has been drilled, shaped, smoothed, and polished with patient devotion. The strands are placed carefully, one after another, forming a display of quiet beauty. People stop to look, their expressions serene, appreciating the simple loveliness of the stones. As more traders arrive, the market grows into a soft mosaic of colors, scents, and textures. Baskets of barley, jars of honey, piles of dried fruit, stacks of pottery, and bundles of fiber for weaving all settle into the warm glow of the evening. The sound of footsteps blends into a gentle chorus, muffled by earth and brick. From the northern road, a small group of travelers arrives. Their clothes are dusty from the long journey, but their steps are relaxed. They carry bundles wrapped in cloth and small clay seal stones hanging from cords. These seals, engraved with animal symbols or geometric patterns, are used to identify goods, to confirm trades, or simply to show where they come from. The traders treat them with quiet respect. One traveler kneels beside a stall selling herbs and spices. He unwraps a piece of clay bearing his seal imprint, a small design of a bull with curved horns. The stall keeper nods, inspects the mark, and acknowledges the authenticity of the exchange. With slow, deliberate motions, he measures out turmeric and pepper, placing them into a woven pouch. The entire interaction feels like a gentle dance, simple, steady, and rooted in trust, shaped by many such evenings. Nearby, another merchant receives a seal imprinted with a fish symbol, smooth, rounded, carefully carved. He smiles softly, recognizing the region from which the traveler must have come. The goods are exchanged quietly. No bargaining voices rise, no energetic gestures interrupt the calm. In Mohenjo-Daro's evening market, trade is as peaceful as the river that flows nearby. As the market settles into full motion, a small, endearing moment unfolds near the fruit stall. A sturdy, gentle-eyed bull wanders close, drawn by the sweet scent of ripe melons and dates. Its slow steps make barely a sound. The trader, who knows this bull well, its fondness for taking interest in fruit that isn't meant for it, watches with a resigned smile. The bull lowers its head toward a basket of fruit. Just as it reaches forward, it misjudges the angle and gives the basket a soft nudge with its horn. The basket tips slightly and wobbles, but nothing spills. A round melon rolls gently across the mat, stopping after a short, lazy journey. A few people nearby notice and chuckle quietly. Not a loud laugh, just a warm, breathy sound that blends into the evening air. The trader pats the bull affectionately on its flank, guiding it away with a calm gesture. The bull obeys, but not without taking one last, slow sniff of the fruit. Its large ears flick lazily before it wanders toward a patch of grass growing beside the walkway. The moment is small, gentle, and somehow perfect for the sleepy atmosphere of the market. Even the bull seems to understand the softness of the hour. As twilight deepens, the clay lamps are lit one by one. Their flames flicker gently, casting warm circles of amber light on the ground. The glow dances softly on pottery jars, woven baskets, and the polished surfaces of carnelian beads. Shadows grow long and feather-light, stretching between stalls like threads of calm. The spice trader sprinkles a pinch of turmeric into a shallow dish, letting the powder settle like gold dust. The bead maker continues polishing his stones with slow circular motions, humming a quiet tune. Mothers guide their children through the market, holding their hands gently as they examine baskets of sweet figs and fresh greens. A craftsman stacks his clay pots with meticulous care, tapping the rims lightly to be sure they sit evenly. Every gesture feels deliberate, steady, free of hurry. The travelers linger longer now, taking their time to choose herbs, pottery, beads, and grain. The scent of spices grows stronger as the lamps warm the air. Threads of conversation drift through the market, soft and pleasant greetings exchanged. Simple comments about the day. A remark about the breeze cooling the bricks. Nothing sharp, nothing rushed. In the distance, the soft murmur of the Indus River blends with the sounds of the marketplace. The river flows with its usual calm, reflecting the fading sky and the first faint stars. The evening breeze moves through the market stalls, carrying the fragrances of pepper, turmeric, and fresh herbs, mixing them with the earthy scent of clay. As the last bit of sunlight slips behind the horizon, the market glows in quiet harmony. The lamps shimmer, the spices shine like warm embers, the carnelian beads gleam with a deep inner light. The bull lies down near a patch of grass, chewing with slow contentment. The traders prepare for the later hours of the evening, still relaxed, still steady. Mohenjo-Daro's evening market does not celebrate anything grand. Instead, it thrives in the gentle rhythm of simple moments, aromas drifting in the air, beads catching the light, seals pressed into soft clay, and a playful bull, nudging a basket just enough to make everyone smile. It is a peaceful world, warm with the soft glow of dusk, shaped by the calm hands and gentle habits of the people who gather here each evening. And as the stars appear one by one above the ancient city, the market continues to breathe in its own slow, comforting way. Quiet, steady, and full of small joys woven into the heart of Mohenjo-Daro. Quiet genius. Soft technologies of the Indus Valley. Evening settles slowly over the Indus cities, wrapping their straight streets and brick roofs in a gentle amber light. The day's heat loosens its grip, and the air grows pleasantly warm instead of sharp. In this quiet hour, when work slows and the world feels soft around the edges, the true genius of the Indus Valley becomes easier to notice. It is not loud or dramatic. It hides in calm hands, neat lines, and tools so precise they feel almost playful in their perfection. In a small workshop near the center of the city, a stone weight rests on a smooth slab. At first glance, it looks simple, just a small, carefully shaped piece of stone. But when you look closer, its edges are even, its surfaces are flat, and its corners feel as if someone argued with every grain of rock until it agreed to behave. This is one of the famous Indus weights, part of a system so precise that 4,000 years later, it still makes modern archaeologists raise their eyebrows in quiet respect. The craftsman who works with these weights moves calmly, his gestures unhurried. On the floor beside him lies a set of stone cubes and rectangular pieces, each one carved to match a specific standard. He takes one weight, places it on one side of a small balance scale, and then begins adding tiny beads or grains to the other side, just to check. The beam tilts a little back, then settles into perfect balance. The craftsman gives a satisfied nod, as if to say, "Yes, this stone remembers its job." Sometimes when a newer apprentice brings him a slightly uneven weight, he does not scold. He simply smiles, puts the weight on the scale, and watches as it betrays its flaw by tipping just a bit too far. The apprentice sighs softly, already knowing what comes next. More carving, more smoothing, more time. The master pats his shoulder in a gentle, amused way, as if to say, "Don't worry, the stone is just being honest." Not far from the weights, in another part of the city, a more decorative kind of stone is being shaped. Here, an artisan sits, cross-legged with a small piece of steatite in his hand. The stone is soft enough to carve, but strong enough to last. This is the beginning of a seal, one of the small square or rectangular pieces that carry little images of animals and symbols. These seals once moved along trade routes, pressed into wet clay to leave neat impressions that said, "This came from us." The artisan leans forward, his tools small and delicate. With careful strokes, he carves the outline of a bull, its horns curling in a confident arc. The animal is calm, almost dignified, standing in profile as if posing for a portrait it knows will be used for serious things like trade, records, and perhaps the occasional friendly boast. Beneath or beside the animal, the artisan adds tiny symbols, the mysterious script of the Indus world lines and shapes that rest lightly on the stone. As he works, a small child peeks in through the doorway, watching the animal take shape. The artisan glances up and gives a quiet grin, tilting the stone so the child can see better. The bull looks very composed, which might be why people like using it on their seals. It seems like the sort of animal that keeps things organized. When the carving is finished, the seal is polished until its surface is smooth and pleasing to the touch. A hole may be drilled so it can be strung on a cord, ready to hang from a neck or a belt. Later, it will be pressed into soft clay on storage jars or wrapped bundles, leaving behind its tiny perfect image. Somewhere along the trade routes, someone will hold that impression in their hand, nod to themselves and think, "Ah, this one is from those very tidy people of the Indus." Beneath the feet of these careful craftsmen, another kind of quiet brilliance is at work, one that most people do not think about until they need it. Running under the streets and beside the walls of houses is the famous drainage system of the Indus cities, often called one of the most advanced in the ancient world. It does not roar or crash. It does not demand attention. It simply moves water gently, steadily, out of the living spaces and into channels that carry it away. In one alley, a series of brick-lined drains runs along the edge of the walkway. The surface is smooth, the bricks fitted together with almost stubborn neatness. Some stretches are covered with flat stones or baked bricks, forming lids that can be lifted when cleaning is needed. The slope is so carefully calculated that the water flows at just the right speed, not too fast, not too slow. It is the plumbing equivalent of a perfect lullaby. If you stand in the alley and listen, you might not hear anything at all, perhaps only the faintest murmur of water, softer than a whisper, slipping through the channels. A woman pours used water into a small opening at the edge of her courtyard. The liquid disappears quietly, carried off by a system designed to make itself almost invisible. No splashing, no gurgling, no fuss. Just a city that stays clean, because someone, long ago, cared enough to make the drains both functional and peaceful. Sometimes when a brick shifts or a bit of debris clogs part of the system, a worker comes with a simple tool and lifts the cover. He kneels, reaches in, clears the obstruction, and then replaces the lid with a soft tap. The water resumes its calm journey, as if nothing happened. The worker dusts off his hands and walks away, satisfied. In another time and place, he might be called an engineer. Here, he is simply someone who keeps the city's quiet comfort flowing. In yet another corner of the city, where the light falls gently through an open courtyard, a jeweler sits at his low workbench. Before him are small ingots of gold and silver, along with pieces of banded agate now waiting to be shaped. This is the domain of fine detail, where metal and stone team up to become something beautiful and enduring. The jeweler begins with gold, heating it carefully over a small flame. The metal softens just enough to bend, and he guides it into loops, spirals, and thin bands. Each bracelet and ring takes shape slowly, as if the metal itself prefers not to be rushed. He cools it, polishes it, and inspects it with a thoughtful gaze. If a curve is just a tiny bit uneven, he adjusts it with gentle taps until the line flows as smoothly as the river outside the city. When he turns to silver, the process is similar, though the metal's cooler sheen gives the jewelry a quieter kind of glow. He lays the pieces out in a neat row, gold with its warm gleam, silver with its soft shine. Then he adds the agate. These stones, with their layered colors and smooth surfaces, are drilled and shaped with tiny tools. Some are round, some elongated, some carved into gentle geometric forms. When combined with gold or silver, they create bracelets and necklaces that feel both solid and comforting. As he threads the beads onto a cord or fits them into a metal frame, a small smile sometimes tugs at the corners of his mouth. He knows that these pieces will be worn in daily life, at gatherings, in quiet courtyards, along the riverbank. They are not meant to dazzle with drama, but to offer a steady, pleasant presence, like a favorite cup or a well-worn mat. A neighbor passes by and pauses at the doorway, admiring the row of finished jewelry. The jeweler lifts one bracelet slightly, letting the light catch the agate's subtle colors. The neighbor nods with quiet appreciation, offering a few soft words of praise. There is no loud reaction, no grand exclamation, just the shared satisfaction of seeing something well made. As the evening deepens, lamps are lit in homes and workshops across the city. The stone weights are put away in their boxes, each one resting in its own little space. The seal maker sets his tools aside and leaves the latest steatite creation to dry completely. The drainage channels continue their silent work beneath the streets, carrying away the last of the day's water. And in the jeweler's courtyard, the newly finished ornaments rest on a cloth cooling after the warmth of the craftsman's hands. The city of the Indus Valley does not shout about its achievements. Its genius lives in quiet details, in weights that know exactly how heavy they should be, in seals that carry tiny stories, in drains that keep everything fresh and clean, and in bracelets that circle wrists with calm beauty. In this gentle twilight, as the sky darkens and the air grows cooler, the technologies and techniques of this ancient world feel less like inventions and more like old friends, steady, reliable, and quietly kind. And as night finally settles in, the bricks, stones, metals, and waters of the Indus cities rest just as peacefully as the people who shaped them, waiting patiently and without hurry to begin their quiet work again when the next soft morning arrives. Night falls softly over the Indus city. Night drifts slowly into the Indus city, settling over the straight streets and flat-roofed homes like a long, gentle exhale. The heat of the day melts away, leaving the air pleasantly cool, touched by the faint scent of clay and grain stored from earlier hours. The sun slides behind the horizon, and the sky deepens into a soft shade of blue that seems to hold the whole city in a quiet embrace. One by one, small oil lamps begin to glow inside the homes. Their flames flicker lightly, casting warm, golden circles against the brick walls. The light is not bright enough to reveal every detail, but just enough to warm the corners and soften the shadows. When the breeze moves through a doorway or around an open courtyard, the flame dances gently, sending the dim glow across the bricks like thin strokes of liquid gold. Through a narrow alley, a woman places her lamp on a low shelf. The flame stretches upward, then settles into a calm, steady brightness. The light reflects off polished clay pots, woven baskets, and the small tools she used earlier in the day. Everything looks softer now, as though the lamp's glow has wrapped the room in a warm, sleepy blanket. She adjusts the wick, gives the flame a quiet nod as though approving its behavior, and moves on with her evening. Nearby, in another home, the sound of weaving begins. It is slow, steady, and rhythmic, like a lullaby whispered by wooden tools. The loom creaks gently as wool threads shift back and forth. Each movement creates a soft tap-tap, then a faint, brushed sound as the weaver guides the fibers into place. The rhythm never hurries. It follows the quiet of the night, peaceful and patient. A small boy sitting in the courtyard listens to the sound, swaying a little in time with it. His eyes grow heavy, but he tries to look awake, partly because he enjoys the weaving sound, and partly because he wants to pretend he's helping. Every once in a while he hands his mother a spool of thread, with a seriousness far greater than the job requires. She thanks him with a soft smile each time, even if he hands her the wrong color more often than the right one. The night deepens, and with it comes the gentle ritual of closing the wooden doors. These doors, smooth from years of use, swing on simple hinges carved directly into the frame. They do not slam, they do not creak loudly. Instead, they close with a muted thud, a sound so soft it almost disappears into the night air. In one home, a man gently pulls his door shut. It closes easily, as if tired from the day and eager to rest. He secures it with a small wooden bar, then stands for a moment, listening to the faint weaving sound drifting across the street. Satisfied that the city is calm, he strolls toward the stairs that lead up to his roof. Across the city, others are doing the same. The flat rooftops of Indus homes, warmed during the day and cool at night, become evening retreats. Families climb up with woven mats, soft blankets, and the calm expectation of a quiet night under the sky. Some carry small plates of leftover grain cakes or sweetened milk. Others bring nothing except themselves and their slow breaths. On one rooftop, a woman spreads out a mat, smoothing the edges with gentle pats. Her daughter sits beside her, eyes wide as she looks at the stars beginning to appear. The sky over Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro opens like a vast, dark ocean studded with tiny lights. The stars appear one after another, soft pinpricks of silver, glowing quietly above the city. A light breeze brushes across the rooftops, carrying with it faint traces of evening meals, a hint of wool from the weaving room, and the comforting scent of lamp oil. The rooftops become a soft city of their own, small silhouettes lying quietly under the sky, each family settling into their own peaceful rhythm. On a nearby roof, a father tries to point out a particularly bright star to his son. The boy squints, looks in the wrong direction, then asks for clarification only to receive a gentle laugh and a warm pat on the head. After a few attempts, he finally spots the star. He nods with satisfied pride, then immediately gets distracted by another star that looks slightly shinier, even though it is, objectively, exactly the same as the first one. A few houses away, an elderly couple settles onto their mats. The husband stretches his legs with a soft sigh. His wife gives him a playful nudge with her elbow, the kind that says, "You've made that same sound every night for 40 years. He grins quietly, then folds his hands behind his head, staring up at the sky. The stars reflect in his eyes, soft and content. Back in the weaving house, the loom continues its patient work. The weaver adds the final threads for the evening. She slows her motions, letting the rhythm fade gently into silence. She ties a knot, sets the shuttle down, and extinguishes the small lamp beside her with a careful pinch. A tiny wisp of smoke curls upward, carrying the scent of warm oil into the air. Outside, the alley is washed in a soft glow from the remaining lamps. The bricks catch the light in smooth patches, creating gentle shapes on the walls. A cat wanders through the street, its paws silent on the ground. It pauses to look at a closed door, sniffs briefly, then moves on clearly, unimpressed but perfectly content. In another home, an oil lamp flickers, sending its light gently across a row of clay jars. A young woman leans against the doorway, watching the shadows move like slow, drifting patterns. The flame bends slightly each time the breeze passes, giving the impression of a lamp that enjoys swaying along with the night. On the rooftops, people lie quietly, letting the cool air settle around them. The stars become brighter as the sky darkens fully. The constellations, though unnamed in any modern sense, spread across the heavens like gentle brush strokes. Someone begins humming a tune, soft and low. The sound does not travel far, but it adds a tender music to the quiet night. A young boy tries to count the stars. He gets to 7 before forgetting what number comes next, then decides that 7 is enough for tonight. He curls up beside his mother, completely satisfied with his astronomical achievement. The soft sounds of the city merge together, the final tap of a loom being set aside, the whisper of doors settling into their frames, the low murmur of families exchanging last bits of conversation, and the gentle breeze moving across brick and rooftop. Everything blends into a soothing pattern, like a lullaby, without words. Even the night creatures behave politely. An insect hums near a lamp, then drifts away, as if it realizes it should not disturb the peace. A distant bull shifts its weight near a courtyard wall, its breath steady and calm. A small bird, confused by the lamplight, hops once on a rooftop before deciding it is too sleepy to explore and tucks its head under its wing. Slowly the lamps begin to fade. Some are blown out deliberately, others simply burn low until their flames shrink into tiny points of light. The glow softens, dims, and finally melts into the darkness. The only illumination left is the sky, wide, deep, and full of patient stars. Families settle deeper into their blankets. Conversations quiet. The warm bricks beneath them release the last of the day's heat. Someone lets out a gentle sigh that drifts across the rooftop, like the final note of a song, and the city of the Indus, so organized by day, so peaceful by night, rests under the starlit sky, breathing in slow harmony. The lamps dim, the weaving ceases, the doors stand closed, and the people lie beneath the heavens, letting the night wrap around them like soft cloth. In this quiet world, nothing rushes, nothing pulls. The night simply unfolds, calm and warm, holding the city in a slow, steady embrace until the first touch of morning light returns again. A soft night beside the great bath. Night drifts gently over Mohenjo-Daro, settling onto the brick rooftops and wide streets with a slow, cool sigh. The city grows quieter by the minute until only the soft sounds of distant footsteps and an occasional breeze remain. Near the center of the city, the great bath rests in peaceful stillness, wrapped in the golden glow of a few small oil lamps placed carefully along the ledges. The large brick pool glimmers under the light, its surface smooth and dark, like a polished stone. The lamps reflect in long, trembling lines, stretching lightly across the water each time the wind stirs. In the stillness, the great bath becomes almost like a sleeping giant, silent, calm, and comfortably warm from the heat stored in its baked bricks. From the edges of the bath, faint wisps of steam rise into the cool air. The water, warmed during the day, releases its heat slowly, sending a comforting mist upward. The steam carries a soft, pleasant scent, the smell of baked brick warmed and cooled countless times. It's a scent the people of Mohenjo-Daro know well, gentle like warm clay after rain, or like a pot freshly lifted from the kiln. It lingers around the bath in delicate curls, drifting between the lamps and dissolving into the night. The great open courtyard around the bath is spacious, its brick floor smooth and even beneath the faint lamp glow. Every footstep echoes lightly here, traveling farther than normal, creating a soft, hollow sound as if the space itself is listening. Anyone crossing the courtyard at this hour does so slowly, partly out of respect for the quiet and partly because the echoes make even the simplest steps feel important. A pair of workers walking past the bath exchange a few words, barely above a whisper. Their sandals make gentle taps on the bricks. Each step creates a small echo that drifts into the vast space before fading away like a sigh. They carry baskets of tools, though their day's work is long finished. Now they simply pass through on their way home, soaking in the calm of the evening before joining their families for rest. At the far end of the bath, near one of the entrances, sits the night watchman. He leans comfortably against a brick pillar, wrapped in a cloth that keeps most of the cool night air at bay. His lamp, placed at his side, flickers gently and casts a golden circle around him. He watches the courtyard with the kind of relaxed attention that comes only after many nights of quiet shifts. From time to time, the watchman lets out a small yawn, one of those soft, polite yawns that tries not to disturb the world. He rubs his eyes, adjusts his cloth, and glances at the sky. The stars shimmer faintly above the rooftops, reflecting into the great bath like tiny moving lanterns. A moment later, a cool breeze drifts across the courtyard and brushes against the watchman's face. He shivers lightly, then chuckles to himself in a sleepy mumble. "There it goes again," he says softly, "the walking cold blanket." This is his private nickname for the night wind, a moving blanket that carries cool air wherever it pleases. He pulls his cloth tighter around his shoulders, giving the breeze a playful glare before settling back into his seat. The breeze, entirely unbothered, wanders across the courtyard. It moves over the surface of the great bath, disturbing the steam just enough to make it dance. The warm mist curls upward, meeting the cool air with a softness that feels almost like a gentle conversation between water and wind. Now and then, someone crosses the courtyard to check the lamps. The keeper of the lamps moves with careful steps, lifting each lamp to adjust the wick or add a touch more oil. The light brightens slightly, steadies, and returns to its slow shimmer. Each lamp looks like a tiny sun resting upon the ancient bricks, its glow stretching into the water with a soft golden line. The lamp keeper pauses occasionally to watch the steam rise. He breathes in the clay-scented air and closes his eyes briefly, enjoying the warmth radiating from the water. Then he moves on, leaving behind the faint echo of his footsteps and the soft whisper of his cloth brushing against the bricks. A small insect flutters near one of the lamps. It circles once, twice, then decides that the warm mist rising from the bath is far more interesting. It drifts into the steam, disappears for a moment, then comes out again, clearly confused but harmlessly delighted. The watchman watches it with mild amusement, shaking his head gently as if approving its little adventure. Closer to the water's edge, the bricks still hold the memory of the day's sun. When the breeze dies down, the warmth becomes more noticeable. Someone passing by might briefly place their hand against the bricks, feeling the heat radiate through their palm. It is a comforting warmth, the kind that encourages slow breathing and quiet thoughts. Far above, the sky has deepened into a dark, still blue. Stars scatter themselves across the night like small beads on a woven cloth. Their reflections shimmer faintly in the bath, making the pool look like a second sky, resting gently upon the ground. The watchman glances at it occasionally, as though trying to compare which sky has more stars. He never reaches a conclusion, of course, because before he can count beyond a few, another yawn interrupts him. A group of late workers passes through the courtyard. One of them carries a bundle of cloth. Another carries a jar with leftover water from the day's tasks. Their voices remain soft as they greet the watchman with a small nod. He returns the gesture, though halfway through, he must pause to hide another yawn behind his hand. The workers smile, amused but silent, and continue on their way. Before long, the courtyard empties again. More steam rises, more flickers of lamplight dance across the water. The watchman stretches his legs and listens to the quiet. The air cools slightly, brushing against the back of his neck like a sneaky fingertip of night. He shivers again and tugs his cloth tighter, looking around as if to secretly catch the breeze before it can tickle him again. Another gust of wind drifts through, this one slower, softer, and carrying the faint smell of distant grain stores. "Ah, there it is," the watchman murmurs, smiling with sleepy satisfaction. "The cold blanket's little brother." He settles deeper against the pillar, letting the quiet swallow up the sound of his voice. The lamps continue their patient glowing. The water in the great bath shifts only slightly, reflecting every movement of light and shadow. The steam rises in gentle swirls, touching the night with warmth. This is how Mohenjo-Daro sleeps, with soft lamplight, slow steps, warm bricks, and a watchman who believes the breeze is a roaming blanket searching for new shoulders to surprise. And beneath the stars, the great bath lies in peaceful stillness, an ancient pool wrapped in golden light, breathing out its gentle mist into the cool night, waiting for another quiet dawn to arrive. Dreams of the Indus Valley? Night settles gently over the Indus Valley, wrapping the fields and houses beneath a cool layer of stillness. The last traces of daylight fade into a soft blue shadow, and the world begins to breathe in a slower, steadier rhythm. It is a quiet hour, an hour made for drifting thoughts and easy dreams. From the nearby fields comes the mild scent of the harvest. Barley, wheat, and bundles of dried stalks hold on to the warmth of the day, releasing a sweet, earthy fragrance that spreads through the valley. It mixes with the softer smell of clay walls, cooling in the night, and the faint hint of smoke from small hearths now resting. The combination creates a comforting aroma, the kind that tells the whole valley, "Yes, the day is done. You may rest now." Somewhere not far away, an ox exhales a long, slow breath that fogs slightly in the cool air. The sound is steady, peaceful, almost sleepy. Another ox joins in as if politely echoing the first. Their breaths form a soft duet, rising and fading in the night. One ox shifts its weight, the gentle rustle of grass brushing beneath its feet. A small flick of its ear produces the tiniest sound, barely noticeable unless someone is lying awake, listening carefully. Far beyond the fields, the faint sound of water drifts in from the darkness. The Indus River moves at its own patient pace, untouched by hurry or worry. At night, the water sounds even softer, like a whisper that travels through reeds and grass before arriving at the edge of the village. It's a gentle accompaniment to the valley's rest, a sound that blends with breath, breeze, and the faint rustle of distant animals settling for the night. Inside one of the quiet homes, a family begins to drift toward sleep. The cool night air brushes through the courtyard, stirring the edges of woven mats. Someone murmurs about the day's work, another adjusts their blanket, and soon the house slips into a gentle hush. This is when stories begin to float, not spoken loudly but carried softly from memory, like dreams choosing to visit before sleep arrives fully. One story drifts into the air tonight, a tale about faraway lands and long, patient journeys. It begins with the trade routes, winding paths stretching from the Indus Valley toward the distant world of Mesopotamia, where cities rise beside their own great rivers. The storyteller's voice is slow and warm, the kind that makes listeners feel safe even if they are already half asleep. The story tells of merchants who travel far from home carrying carnelian beads, cotton cloth, and carefully measured goods. They follow paths marked by hills, deserts, and the signs of familiar constellations above. Along the way, they meet traders from other lands, some from the plains of Sumer, others from villages near the Arabian coast. No one rushes. Trade in these times is patient, steady, shaped by the rhythm of seasons and the flow of rivers. Sometimes the storyteller pauses, perhaps realizing half the listeners have already drifted into light sleep. Someone gives a soft snore, and the storyteller smiles in the darkness but continues anyway, because stories do not mind if half their audience in you escapes into dreams. The tale drifts toward the sea now, describing simple wooden boats resting at the edge of the Arabian waters. These vessels are modest, built with planks and rope, nothing grand, but they are sturdy, carried by calm waves and guided by hands that understand the ocean's moods. The storyteller chuckles lightly, recalling a boat that looked so small, someone once joked it could fit inside a cow's shadow. But the boat made the journey anyway, bobbing its way across the open sea with quiet determination. As the story continues, the Indus Valley night deepens. The sounds remain soft oxen breathing, water murmuring, wind brushing lightly across rooftops. A child rolls over on their mat, mumbling something about a floating cow shadow boat, clearly blending story and dream into one. A quiet laugh escapes from someone nearby, then fades quickly into the stillness. The storyteller's voice slows even more now, turning into a warm hum. The story describes merchants returning home at last, bringing back shells from distant beaches, smooth stones shaped by foreign rivers, and small jars carrying scents from across the sea. They step onto the familiar soil of the Indus Valley, greeted not with celebrations but with the gentle comfort of home, a home where slow rivers flow, oxen breathe steadily, and nights feel like long, soft blankets. The tale settles into silence. Nothing more needs to be said. Beyond the story, the valley continues its quiet dreaming. The water keeps flowing, the animals keep breathing, and the scent of the harvest lingers in the cool air. Somewhere, someone whispers goodnight. Somewhere else, a lamp flickers once before settling into darkness. The stars shine above, patient and unhurried, watching over the valley as it rests. And so the Indus Valley dreams dreams of fields and rivers, of boats that travel farther than they seem able, and of journeys both long and gentle carried on the steady breath of a world that knows how to sleep well. A soft ending in the Indus night. The city of the Indus settles slowly into its final quiet of the night. One by one, the lights in each home fade into warm embers, then slip gently into darkness. The flat rooftops cool beneath the starlight, and the long, straight streets grow calm, holding only the soft memory of footsteps from earlier hours. Even the tools left in courtyards seem to rest, leaning against walls at easy angles, as if they too are ready for sleep. Across the valley, the night wind begins its slow wander, brushing lightly over the rooftops and along the smooth brick paths. It carries with it a familiar scent, the deep, earthy aroma of soil that has lived through 4,000 years of quiet seasons. The smell settles comfortably into the air, warm and ancient, like the valley exhaling after a long day. Anyone still awake might take a slow breath and feel the history drift through them, gentle, steady, and pleasantly dusty. The breeze continues its journey, weaving between houses, slipping through narrow alleys, and occasionally lifting a stray piece of straw, just to play with it for a moment before letting it fall again. A sleepy dog opens one eye as the wind passes, decides the situation is not worth getting up for, and settles back into its nap with a soft grunt. Somewhere on a rooftop, a family adjusts their blankets. Someone wiggles to find the most comfortable spot. Someone else whispers a joke about the wind, trying to steal their blanket, an idea that brings a few muffled giggles before silence returns. The stars above shine with slow patience, as if they have all the time in the world to watch over the valley. Down in the narrow lanes, the last wooden door is gently pushed closed. It doesn't make much sound, just a quiet thump that seems to join the rest of the city's peaceful settling. Inside, a lamp flickers its final glow, stretches its flame like a tired yawn, and fades into a thin ribbon of smoke. The room sinks into soft darkness, warmed by the day's memories and cooled by the night air drifting through small windows. The Indus Valley, calm as ever, holds the stillness with a kind of ancient grace. The river flows in the distance, steady and unhurried, moving like a long whisper through the night. Its surface reflects bits of starlight, and its sound, barely audible, becomes part of the valley's lullaby. And in this deep quiet, as the last traces of the day disappear, a gentle wish seems to float across the rooftops, carried by the same wandering breeze. The peace of the Indus is still here, quiet and deep, steady as warm brick, soft as night water, enough to guide you into a sleep as gentle as the river at dusk. So let the valley cradle you. Let the night wind cover you. Let the ancient stillness rest around your shoulders like a soft, cool cloth. Tonight, as the Indus sleeps, may you drift with it, unhurried, peaceful, and carried into dreams on the quiet breath of a world that has known calm for thousands of years.